Hey everyone, it's Krystallee here. So stick around for the next couple of minutes. If you find yourself always in arguments with your partner and it kills the mood between you, and you guys are never intimate after, you're sleeping back to back, maybe in separate beds, maybe not sleeping at all, this video can certainly help you and hopefully give you an example of how we continue intimacy, even though, yes, there's an argument. So maybe you can relate. I guess, perhaps maybe you can consider a hothead at times. You know, my argument style was pretty poor, pretty sad. And it was always, just extreme levels of argument. And of course that killed the vibe between us. Didn't really make for a very intimate setting to want to connect with one another or speak with one another, be kind, and obviously lead to wanting to have sex with one another. I mean, it doesn't really set the tone for that when arguments occur. And many of us have learned a style of argument. I know for my own self, from growing up in a household and not having a great model of how arguments are diffused and how you can actually come to some sort of positive resolution or solution at the end. I had no idea how to do this. And, I've seen some people be able to resolve things amicably and be calm, cool, collected. And I was like, what's going on? Like, how do people do this? How do you resolve an argument? Well, I hope these tips help you because they certainly help not kill the vibe, but restore it, but also not take away from any potential if there is going to be a moment of intimacy later on in the day. So the first thing that I really had to work through and change was not hit below the belt. This was huge. I mean, why do we do this? Because we find the most hurtful, harmful thing to say to really jab at the person and make them feel the same pain that we do, but we don't actually really mean it. But maybe this was a learned way of being, of arguing, of trying to get back at somebody. And, your words do carry a lot. They say words hurt deeper than physical actions because they stay within us. They start becoming a belief that we start adopting. And that's why it's really important to not hit below the belt. So that was the first thing that I learned was, hey, no cheap shots, no comparisons. It's not about competition. We want to leave that all at the door and not bring that into an argument because that literally takes it from 0 to 100 and makes it lose control, and we lose our entire frame in an argument. Second thing that I learned was to stop judging. Man, this is a hard one. I mean, as humans, we judge. That we use judgment for many things. And yes, it's very hard not to judge, but when we're judging, we're not listening. We are searching for a response, or we are feeling triggered by what they say, and we start getting this visceral effect. Maybe your body starts tightening up, or you feel this shocking sense of sensation, a wave come over you. And I'm only explaining ones that I've experienced, so maybe you can relate. But then, you start feeling like this heavy weight on you, and a headache, maybe some fogginess in the brain comes on, and you just are in this state of rage or anger or frustration. When we are looking at our responses and know that we constantly respond in certain ways, those are things that need to be readjusted in our mind to not be the default pattern that our mind goes to when we're in an argument. So rather, being closed off and guarded and super defensive, now I'm very open, open to even hearing the hard things. Because honestly, it's the hard things where I have to evaluate, hey, What's happening here? Why are they telling me this? Please tell me more. What do you mean by that? What are you saying when you're saying this? How does this make you feel when this is happening? And I try to stand in their shoes and honestly reflect on what they're saying rather than becoming very guarded. So that's something that I really had to learn because, I would think that my husband wouldn't be saying certain things for no reason. And yes, agree to disagree. You don't always have to agree, but learn to be more curious and listen actively. And that means turning off the mind of what you're thinking or how you want to respond or drumming up some sort of answer in your head or feeling stuck on what they said and just be like, tell me more. I want to know more, and open yourself up, myself up to curiosity and be like, hey, why is this person sharing this with me? And let me find out more. Another thing that really helped in arguments, so this didn't stifle the bedroom scenario, was to really work on how I spoke. Now, without you realizing it, your tone changes really quickly, the type of language that you use, and truthfully, even what is coming out of your mouth that the other person interprets. So I wasn't being really relatable, and it always sounded like criticism. So it's like, you do this, well, you do that, and this is what you do to upset me. And when somebody hears that, that's like constant negativity. That's like a constant drawdown on their characteristics. And it honestly hurts a person when they hear that. And of course, naturally, they're going to get defensive. So I'm like, okay, what can I do here? How can I change the way I'm putting out my thoughts and sharing this information so the argument doesn't turn into an argument? It can be a conversation. What about that? Let's try that. Because, hey, we should be able to agree to disagree. There isn't always a resolution. We may not always come to the same agreement, but it's understanding each other, wanting to understand one another, rather than always wanting to be understood, and giving and receiving that kind of relationship. So I had to find ways to be relatable. Hey, hun, when I'm done dinner, I usually like to just wash the dishes quickly so it looks like, nobody had dinner here. It's all good. It's all clean. It's done. And I just like to clean up quickly right after me so, it's not sitting there the next day. Do you think this is something that you can do? Or would that help, your habit of getting into the routine of making sure there's not a sink full of dishes? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we want to show how it affects us, how we would do things. Be like, hey, I'm inviting you to see if this would be something you could do or relate with. And this helps them engage in the conversation rather than feeling attacked. And that has been a game changer. These three things has been a game changer in how we argue and like diffusing arguments, right? Like, instead of always pointing the finger, putting it back on me and like ensuring that they know that I am not here to fight. I don't want to have a major disagreement. So, we are separated at the end of the night and we go to bed angry, which, I really make a conscious decision never to go to bed angry. It happens once in a blue moon, but nowadays it's few and far between because we have this way of dialoguing, and I started this way, and I was, coaching him through this way, and he's starting to get the spin of things, of how things are going, and, it's getting better and better, but learning that I had to rewire my mind on how I was triggered in certain things, how I saw him, and how I felt about things really helped me open up this bigger perspective and wanting to interact in this way with him so we can build intimacy. So this doesn't kill our vibe. And stresses can happen at any part of the day. These things happen all the time, but it's just a matter of how we're responding, how we're dealing with it, so they don't go into a full-blown argument that has really, to be honest, usually never anything to do with what the original problem was. It just gets spun out of control. This is how we bring it back into control, narrow things down, focus down, so it doesn't create that break of intimacy. But we could just like hug it out and be like, we're good. You know, thank you for telling me more. I appreciate your input. You know what? I may not agree with you, but I really agree that you were able to come to me, or appreciate that you were able to come to me and share this with me. Like, we want to encourage our partner to be that way. And we're never taught. We're just never taught. So I hope this video helps you. And this example of how I've really had to change my ways of being in order to bring this, I guess you would say, bigger or more respectful way of being. And to be honest, it's done like magic in our relationship, and really has lessened the stress in our relationship and helped us be more proactive together, if that makes sense. So if this is something that you're wanting help with, and you find you and your partner are constantly arguing and you just can't get past the arguments, and it is literally preventing you from having any intimacy, because of course it takes a toll on the connection that you have, then get in touch with me. Let's work at how your mind is processing these things, what your mind is doing in these arguments, and truthfully break that habit, allow yourself to open up more, and be able to be that person in the arguments that are able to diffuse them, have conversations, and find a resolution that you can hug it out at the end. Let's kiss it out, actually. Anyway, I hope you're able to get some value out of that today. I'll see you soon.